So welcome. Welcome to our fourth and final service on Don Miguel's amazing book, The Four Agreements. Today we'll focus on the fourth agreement, always do your best. And we'll also focus on how these agreements can help open the door to more peace and freedom in our lives. Always do your best is something everyone can do. Your best is, in fact, the only thing you can do. Ruiz invites us to always give 100% of what we can do. And your best is not always the same. From one moment to the next, we change. So our best changes. It depends on whether you're feeling physically tired or refreshed, if you're in pain, if you haven't slept, how you're doing emotionally. These all impact what our best might be. He shares that the more we practice these agreements in our life, the better our best might be. He instructs us to always do our best and no more and no less. Sometimes we keep wondering, if we do this, will it be our best? We might aspire to what we might deem a perfection that we can't really attain. I wanted to just share a Buddhist story. There was a man who wanted to transcend his suffering. So he went to a Buddhist temple to look for a master. And he found one and he went in and he said, "Master, if I meditate for 4 hours a day, how long will it take for me to transcend suffering?" And the master looked at him and said, "Well, if you meditate for 4 hours a day, it'll probably take about 10 years, give or take." And he thought, he said, "Oh, Master, what if I meditated 8 hours a day? How long would it take me to transcend suffering?" The master looked at him with his kind eyes and he said, "Oh, if you meditate 8 hours a day, you'll probably transcend suffering in 25 or 30 years. The confused man then asked, "Why will it take longer if I meditate more?" And the master replied, "You're not here to sacrifice your joy or your life. You are here to live and to be happy." If you meditate 8 hours a day, you will only grow tired, miss the point of your practice, and you won't enjoy your life. Do your best, and you will learn that no matter how long you meditate, it's not necessarily how long you meditate, it's the practice in meditating. You can meditate and you can live your life and you can be happy. So Ruiz, the author of the book, shares, if you always do your best, you won't judge yourself. If you don't judge yourself, you will not suffer from guilt, from blame, and from regrets. He says, if you always do your best, this agreement will set you free. Always do your best invites us to be in action. Action is about living fully. Inaction is the way we deny life. Inaction is sitting in front of the television all day because you are afraid to be alive and to take the risk of expressing what and who you are. Expressing what you are is taking action. You can have a great many ideas to express in your mind, but it's the action that brings them into the world. Without action, the idea will not be manifested. There's no results, no reward. The Toltecs, which is the essence of this teaching, the Four Agreements, they teach that we need to honor our lives. And the best way to do this is by letting go of the past and living in the present. Right here, right now. Whatever life takes from you, when you surrender to it and let go of the past, you can allow yourself to be fully alive right now. Letting go of the past means you can enjoy the gift of life as it is. If you are in the past, you cannot enjoy what is happening right now because you're not present to this moment. Not enjoying life as it is creates suffering. You were born with the right to be happy. We are all born with that right. You were born with the right to love and to enjoy and to share your love and your light and your wisdom and your being and your intellect and your voice and your heart. That's what we're meant to do. That's the gift of spirit and life. Don't resist life passing through you. Just your existence proves that you are more than body. You are spirit. And you are the existence of life and of energy. The fourth agreement, always do your best, helps the first agreements, which we talked about in the last few weeks. I'm going to go through them again, to become habits. And for those of you that were not on our previous services and are not aware of the other three agreements, the first one is to be impeccable with your word. Always be impeccable with your word. The second is to not take anything personally. And the third is to don't make assumptions. So the repetition of these will make you the master. But be aware, it takes time. And don't expect that you're going to be impeccable with your word always. Or that this is the end of you taking anything personally. Or that you will never make assumptions again. Our habits are strong and rooted in our being. Be gentle with yourself. When you're ready to change your life, when you're ready to change your agreements, the most important thing is awareness. You can only change something if you're aware of what you want to change. But in addition to being aware, it's the practice. It's the practice that makes the difference. Practice makes the master. Everything you've ever learned, you've learned through repetition and practice. You learn to talk. You learn to walk. You learn to read and write, all by repetition. You are the master of speaking your language because you practiced. And this is the same way that you've learned and mastered the beliefs that rule your life. You've practiced these beliefs, your inner story, your inner beliefs. The way you live your life right now is the culmination of a lifetime of practice. If you'd like to make a shift in your life, perhaps the way to do it is to create a new practice, something different. So Don Miguel Ruiz shares that if you fail to keep one of those agreements as you practice to keep it, make the agreement again. Get up the next day and begin again tomorrow. Keep practicing and practicing. You'll find that the words you speak that are not in alignment with the best self of who you are will start to change because you'll become aware that what I said, you know what, that wasn't really what is true for me. I'm going to say that differently next time. if you can make that choice and be gentle with yourself in making that choice, oh, okay, let me do it differently. And rethink it again tomorrow and again the next day. You'll find that the way you express yourself will begin to shift. If that moment comes where you're taking something personally and you can feel it uncomfortable within yourself, and you go, perhaps I didn't need to take that personally. And if you think that way again tomorrow, and again the day after, and the day after that, perhaps that habit could change. And when you realize that you made an assumption, and so many of the times when we make assumptions, it's not what we really imagined they were. And you go, oh boy, that wasn't on target. The more you do this, the more awareness comes into it, the more it becomes part of your experience, your new practice, your new experience of your life. Your whole life you've practiced becoming who you are, and you've practiced developing what you believe. It's like playing an instrument. It takes practice before it becomes a new way, or learning a language. But practice makes us develop new neural pathways. It helps us create new ways of thinking. And no matter what age we are and where we are in our life, we have that ability to create new ways, new pathways in our brains, in our minds. In the words of Ruiz, if you practice being impeccable with your word, and if you don't take anything personally, if you don't make assumptions, you're going to break thousands of agreements that have trapped you in unhappiness. And very soon, what you agree to believe will become the choice of your authentic self, not the choice of the image of yourself you thought you were. When you change what you believe, you change your life. When you change what you believe, you change your life. But aren't we very attached to what we believe? These first three agreements may seem impossible, and I know many of us think that way when we hear these titles. But as we explore them more deeply, we realize that they actually are possible. The thing, I think, is to invite us to be aware of it in our life so we can make those choices and be gentle with ourselves if we don't, and go back to it again. The more we dull down that inner critic in ourselves, the happier we will be. Because most of our suffering comes from that inner critic in our lives, in our minds. Every spiritual tradition has a practice to quiet the chatter in our minds. Every religion, whether it's mala beads, whether it's chanting, whether it's rosary beads, whether it's ecstatic dance, whether it's call and response song. All of these things quiet the chatter and the criticism, the spinning of our minds. It lets us come back to the gentle true self that's underneath all of it, that we miss in being alive and want to find our way back. The more we focus on these agreements, the more they become the default response in our lives. And in doing so, the conflict and the suffering in our lives begin to minimize. So Don Miguel Ruiz shares this question: who stopped us from being free? Who stopped us from being free? Many of us believe it's society, it's our parents, our economic situation, perhaps a religion we were assigned to at birth, or maybe we could just blame God. But who really stops us from being free? He shares that we stop ourselves from being free. And he says that the first step towards personal freedom is awareness. We need to be aware that we are not free in order to be free. We need to be aware of what the problem is in our lives in order to solve it. The Toltecs are masters of shifting their perception, and they believe you could change your life anytime you are not enjoying your life experience. And they control what they call their dream by becoming masters of choice. He shares to be a Toltec is a way of life. It's a way of life where there are no leaders and no followers. And a Toltec becomes wise, becomes wild, and becomes free again. So I first read the Four Agreements. God, it must have been 20 or 25 years ago. And I recall how much it impacted me at that time, profoundly. But in rereading it, I feel like I've read an entirely different book. The spiritual director that taught Reverend Paul and I, and Pippa, Reverend Pippa, from One Spirit, her name is Diane Burke. You've heard us talk about her through the years. She shared this wonderful story. God bless you, Tim. She shared this story that I thought was wonderful when we were studying Judaism. She said this young boy asked his father, who was a rabbi, Abba, he said, which means father. He said, Abba, why do we read the Torah every year? I read it last year. It's not any different this year. And his father said, well, son, yes, the Torah doesn't change, but every year you do. In bringing these four agreements into my life now, again, 20 years later, I've read them and received them with new ears, new thoughts, and a new heart from the life experience I had and as a more mature woman. Sometimes. I see something different in them than I did before. And I've really, because I've been working on this to share with you, it's become really part of my life since December. And it's really become part of my awareness. And I've noticed that I'm less harsh with myself. I've become more gentle with myself. I've really noticed when I take something personally. And when I do so, I've been more gentle with myself. I've been more aware to just say, I'm sorry, I just got distracted. That it's okay. Perhaps I can make a new choice on this. And I've found it impacting my life in a different way. I've noticed I've been less judgment and I've been making less assumptions. It has softened my heart further in some ways I hadn't expected. Many of us want to have a better experience in our life, and often by wishing the past to be different or wishing the future to be a certain way. And then by doing that, we miss out. And I know that as a younger person who read this book 20 years ago, or 25 years ago, I spent my life wishing my past was different. I kept feeling I cannot be happy because my past has been this way. I cannot be happy unless my future is something different. I cannot be happy. But I can't change my past. It took me 66 years to figure that out. But I'm glad to know it now. At least I have whatever time in my life to enjoy this. I can't change the past life, but I can change every day of my life now by bringing awareness and new choices into my experience. David R. Hawkins shares the following in his book, On the Path to Enlightenment. We change the world not by what we say or do, but as a consequence of who we become and what we become. In closing this last service on the Four Agreements, I can only share that my hope is that in exploring this wisdom teaching with all of you, that I've planted new seeds of awareness, perception, and choice in your minds and in your hearts. May this wisdom bring more love and positive connection into your lives and into the lives that you all touch. May it be so. Thank you, everyone. If you like this video, please like us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you.